Hello, welcome back to Bet Builders on Free Super Tips. I'm, of course, Statman Dave, and once again, I'm joined by David Cartlidge from ESPN to talk all things football for Game Week 11 in the Premier League. Welcome back, David. A nice little run out first time. You got yourself one Bet Builder that was successful, but key question to start things off. Title contenders. Who's number one for you?
I think it has to be Liverpool once again. I don't think anybody's just good enough, to be honest with you, to challenge them. I don't think anybody's doing enough to really push them. Spurs are looking good, but I question whether they can maintain it over the course of the season.
And there's a big game, of course, today that's going to be massive that we're going to be talking about, the North London derby. We're going to be diving into Man United versus West Ham, of course, Chelsea Leeds as well, which I'm going to be calling the hipster game of the weekend. If you want to check out any more tips for Game Week 11 in the Premier League, of course, go over to freesupertips.com. But before we dive into all the action, let's revisit the bets from last week, and it absolutely went off. Big winners, David. You've got a lot to do this week. We had James coming in with a 12-1 in the Spurs versus Chelsea game. He called the 0-0. Strange. We're moving to the other bets. Free Super Tips got two winners, one in the Man City game and, of course, one in the West Ham game. And I picked out a winner in the Man United game, of course, Cavani coming up clutch there, and in the Newcastle game. So, going to go big today.
Oh, yeah? No pressure.
So let's dive into the action. First up, we've got to talk about Carlo Ancelotti's trip to Turf Moor to face Burnley. Everton are without Luca Dean at the moment. How important is he a miss at the moment for Everton?
I think he's a big miss. I think Ancelotti loves his fullbacks to really push on. It takes a big amount of momentum out of Everton's player. We know how it was. I think last time around here they were flying. Yeah. And it just takes sometimes one player to drop out, changes the whole system. And I think that's why they're struggling a little bit at the moment. I
think if you look at the stats, he's the top assisting fullback in the league with 4. Also in terms of the link up with Calvert-Lewin, he's assisted him 3 times this season. Only combination to do more is Kane and Son. So it's one of these things where I really feel on that left-hand side they lack a little bit of maybe drive and gusto. And I don't think Alex Iwobi's quite the solution at left fullback.
No, I don't think he is. He's just a temporary measure. I think, they'd much rather have somebody, an actual true left back in there. But we'll see if they get Digne back, if they can pick it up.
We will do. But anyway, let's dive straight into the bets. Let's talk Burnley in the bets, because I've got a bit of a curveball in there. But let's take a look at your bets first, David. You've gone with a draw and under 2 goals in the game. So, not a classic.
No, I think people can take a nap during this one.
Okay, so this is the one where you take a bit of a rest this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Burnley failed to score 6 of their last 7 Premier League games. They failed to win as well in 8 and 9. I can just see it happening once again. This is just going to be another ball draw, I think, and especially with Everton not being on their top form. Burnley will make it difficult. They'll get into James. They'll get into the flair players. Might try and rile Richarlison up. I can see that sort of bitty game.
And that is why I am backing Burnley. I've got a feeling this is similar to the Newcastle game that we got right as well, where Everton went away to Newcastle. They really struggled to break Newcastle down. A deep 4-4-2 block, counter-attack well. So I've gone Burnley to win the game and under 2.5 goals. I agree. Yeah. I think it's going to be a game that's going to be quite slight. I think Luca Dean, as we mentioned before, so important for Everton going forward. You can deal with Everton now. You've got James you can pick up and get physical with him. He doesn't really like that in the Premier League, especially like that last weekend. Yeah. But I think the big stat for me is Ben Mee is now back. So in terms of since the start of last season, Ben Mee, when he's played for Burnley, their win rate's 40% versus without them, 16%. I think we've got to ignore last weekend's game against Man City. It's just, that's a seasonal thing, right? It happens every year. 5-0 against City, you write it off at the Etihad. Yeah. So I do think Burnley going to come up clutch here. But let's move on to Free Super Tips bet and see what they've gone for. They've gone Everton to win the game and Calvert-Lewin any time.
Fair enough. They're saying Everton's going to run it back. This is what Everton were like when they were in their good moment.
But I do think, look, Calvert-Lewin, with or without Luca Dean, still is a sensational centre forward. The movement, the ability to get into good goal scoring positions, top scorer in the Premier League at the moment. I'm not averse to this. Yeah. I just have a feeling.
All right, fair. But I think Calvert-Lewin will fancy this match, I can see him a bit of an aerial battle, test himself. He's not all about the pretty stuff, Calvert-Lewin. He's a pretty boy, but he's not all about the pretty stuff. He can dig in.
Next up, we've got Man City versus Fulham at the Etihad. City last weekend, of course, maybe back to their best, the 5-0 win, but then midweek drawing 0-0 with Porto. It's very difficult to judge City this season. Yeah. Do you think they're back? Do you think they're still stuttering?
It's up and down. There's no consistency there. You know what Pep's like. There's never any consistency with the team. I think trying to get a rhythm up. Every time it looks like they found one, things get changed and then they lose that momentum again. I think that's difficult to deal with. And they're facing a Fulham side who quite fancy themselves after an impressive result midweek.
Very impressive result midweek. The big player I want to talk about for City, though, Riyad Mahrez, he's kind of favoured and unfavoured and favoured and unfavoured with Guardiola. His stats last week were ridiculous. 6 chances created, 5 shots and a hat-trick.
Yeah, you can't criticise Mahrez too much because what I like about Mahrez is his attitude is create something. do something. He never sits and watches the game. When he gets the ball, he will drive at somebody. And yes, he might lose the ball. Yes, he might have a wayward shot. But it's that desire to actually try and create something or do something himself.
I think that's the kind of level of it doesn't fit Pep's system.
Yeah.
Mahrez was a supreme counter-attacking player when Leicester won the league.
Mm-hmm.
The signing was a bit weird for me. I always thought it wasn't quite the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
He isn't really a system player that will hug the width, that will allow Kevin De Bruyne to come inside like maybe Bernardo Silva or a Sane previously.
Mm-hmm.
I always question it. But I think the big thing with Fulham as well is they scored a penalty last week.
They did.
Sensational.
I think they just look really, really good all across the park. I was really impressed with Lookman, but it was Anguissa again in midfield who did it for me. He looks a player, top 8, top 6 type player. There's a lot of clubs who could, do with him in their midfield just to plug things up. He can defend, he can break up play, but he pushes on every bit of a chance he's got. He's got the physique, he's got the style to do that.
Does that mean you're going to be back Scott Parker in your bet?
No.
Win away at the Etihad?
No.
Is that coming?
Absolutely
not. We've got Man City to win the game and Sterling to finally turn up this season in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think so. I can see Fulham just leaving some gaps, and Sterling's the kind of guy who can. I think it'll be maybe a poacher's sort of effort, block shot or something like that. He's always sniffing around those areas. So I can see Fulham just digging in. Parker's not really, he's not somebody who push them on too much. They'll sit in, they'll try and frustrate City, but it's a tiring thing to do, especially right now with games coming thick and fast.
Absolutely, and that is why I've backed Man City as well. I've gone with a big game in terms of goals, over 4.5 goals, and De Bruyne at any time. You're just looking at Fulham, why we've gone over 4.5 goals. They've conceded the most goals in the Premier League this season. Kent City looked great at the weekend.
Yep.
Let's forget the Champions League game against Porto where they struggled. They looked great there. Kind of expect them to fly on. I think Kevin De Bruyne as well, slowly starting to tick into the season. 2 assists last week. Wasn't the greatest goal threat, but I think this is the type of game where he could potentially get some shots from range.
I think we're going to see it a lot from De Bruyne. His comments stuck with me, I think, when he said about players getting tired in too many games. So I can see him kind of load managing. Some games he'll have quiet games, he won't influence too much, and then other games, I think he'll really be at the thick of everything, and this could well be one of them. Very
much so. De Bruyne is always great against the bottom sides. Yeah. Let's move on to FST's bet, and let's see how they've taken this one. Man City to win the game, both teams to score, which is quite interesting. Fulham in semi-decent form going forward. You say Lookman, Ivan Cavallero, it's good players there, and Ferran Torres anytime.
I like that. Big fan of Ferran Torres, and he's somebody, again, who can just find those gaps. You're talking about width that Mahrez brings, and I think Mahrez is playing well because he's got the pressure of Ferran Torres around him. So Torres will just say, right, Mahrez, you've been playing well, I can come in and I can do something as well.
The question there is, can Pep get in Torres, Sterling and Mahrez?
Of course you can. Go all out.
They're
not scoring at the moment, so just get them all in.
Put them all in. Go 3 at the back, 10 up front. Simple for Pep Guardiola. But that is free Super Tips bet. I do like it. Torres anytime. Lovely stuff. On to the tea time kickoff on Saturday. Manchester United travel to East London to face West Ham United. United had a really good comeback against Southampton last week. Has it got to be from the start against West Ham? David Moyes' team are in pretty good form at the moment.
Yeah, I think Moyes will just, it's like he's facing Man United. He'll want to go all out and put on a top performance. This will be the one game he'll want West Ham to really turn it on for. So yeah, I could see them giving Man United some problems, as you'll see in a minute.
Okay, that's not looking good. But let's talk Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
Right now, is he the best player in the Premier League?
I don't think he's the best player in the Premier League. I think he's Man United's best player. I think he's probably the best signing for Man United since De Gea was brought in. So I think he's had that much of an impact on the club, but I don't think he's the best player right now.
So for Man United, he's won 5 out of the 8 Player of the Months. So he's very, very important for them.
Yeah.
I'd probably put him in the bracket as best midfielder in the Premier League right now in terms of level. I think you're looking at Harry Kane is probably the best player right now in terms of overall, his attributes and how he's playing. But just looking at the stats since he joined Manchester United, he's the joint highest scorer and assister, tied with Mohamed Salah and of course Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
I just think he's a player that likes to play away from home at the moment that could have another big impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's always there to potentially win you a penalty as well.
Absolutely, that's the key thing. Penaldes is back. But West Ham United had 6 shots against Villa and scored twice. Is your bet going to reflect that? West Ham on the counter-attack, not many shots, we're being clinical. Let's dive into the bet right now. West Ham to win the game and Antonio to score any time.
Yep.
What is this? What is this rubbish?
Like I say, I just think Moyes is going to get everybody just really, really raise them up for this game. This is going to be one he's just desperate to win. And I think Antonio is somebody who will trouble those vulnerable Manchester United centre-backs. Those crosses and high balls will be going into him. The elbows will be there, he'll be backing into them, and I can just see them having problems with it.
No, again, I'm not averse to this, but I think it's quite good. You're looking at the goal difference as well. Another metric to judge a team. West Ham have got the 4th best goal difference in the league. Defending well, they're attacking well. Ben Rama's starting to come into the side. Antonio's going to be a threat. Bowen got a goal and assist last time out.
Yep.
They're a decent side, West Ham United, and it's not going to be a simple game for United. I could see a 3-2 in there to either side. But let's jump into my bet. I've kind of backed Manchester United because I believe they're going to win. And a draw, double chance. So I've gone a little bit safe. Okay. Fernandes anytime because in away games, he seems to find his rhythm. Either it's a penalty or a fantastic finish, as we've seen. And most goals in the second half. So that's the interesting one. Man United have scored after the 90th minute in each of their 4 away games this season. Mm-hmm. So they're going to score a little bit late. Talking late goals in the second half, coming back into the game. We saw Cavani come off the bench and change the shape of that match. Mm-hmm. Could see something similar, maybe an impact from a sub. Fernandes bagging a goal and then some goals late.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think backing Fernandes is always a sensible thing to do. It really is. It's
definitely, 100%. I think he's, I'd put him in the category as probably the best goal-scoring midfielder. So we're not talking wingers, midfielder since maybe Frank Lampard.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's got that Lampard about him, has a long shot, might get a deflection.
Always in the right place at the right time. But I think, it's like an interesting sort of systematic position for Man United, whether he's going to be playing deep in a midfield or high in it as a number 10. Both positions he can easily play and easily score goals from, something that we've kind of come to see at United. Let's take a look at free Super Tips bet. Because we've gone both sides of the coin and they've gone another side of the coin. So we've got this completely covered right now. Yeah. We've got West Ham draw, double chance, both teams to score, and Fernandes anytime. Yeah. Both teams to score?
No, I can't say it. I can just see it maybe West Ham 1-0 win, just squeezing it out. But I do like that West Ham draw double chance. That is nice.
Next up, we've got the hipsters game of the week. That is Chelsea versus Leeds United. Thought Spurs defended really well against Chelsea. They filtered them out wide. They made them cross the ball to not really a target in there. There was a narrow defence. It was simple stuff from Jose Mourinho and a good result away at Stamford Bridge. But Leeds are going to be far more open than that, which is going to allow Chelsea's best players, their attackers, to get a lot of ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got plenty of attacking players. And I think, given the competition there is for places at Chelsea, everybody's going to be trying to prove something every single week. Pulisic will come in, maybe drop out, Ziyech will come in. So it always changes at Chelsea, and I think everybody's always going to be wanting to prove themselves.
Could be a game for Werner through the middle. Yeah. Ziyech on one wing, and then you're looking at Pulisic on the other. That could be quite a fluid team. I
think you're going to get a lot of space between Leeds' defence and Leeds' midfield. There's going to be a lot of gap in there. So if somebody's going to play maybe a 10, kind of drifting in from wide to come into central areas, I think they could have a lot of success.
Potentially through at the back as well. We saw Leicester City do that against Leeds to a really good level. The interesting side of this game, it's one of the best defences in the league versus one of the best attacks. Leeds United attacks Chelsea's defence in terms of they conceded 10 goals this season. 6 came in 2 games, of course, so that's kind of like a bit of a skewed statistic. Only Spurs have conceded more goals. They've got the most clean sheets in the league. They've got the best XG in the league, at 7.93. This isn't going to be a 0-0 though.
No, absolutely not.
Definitely not a 0-0. No. One man that might score for Leeds United, Patrick Bamford. Got something to prove. 6 years at Chelsea. Obviously didn't spend much time actually at Chelsea. He was on loan everywhere. But now it's time for him to prove a point.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for him. Like you say, he was constantly loaned out there. He did well wherever he went, really, if you look at in the Championship. And there's always been that question mark over him. Can he do it in the Premier League? He's doing it this season so far. And, this is the kind of time to underline that against Chelsea.
Absolutely. You're, again, looking at the XG statistics. He's got the second best XG in the league for any player. But the thing that he's slightly missing at the moment is scoring the big chances. So he's had 12 big chances in the league, more than any other player, but he's missed 9.
Yeah, exactly. And this might cost Leeds, down the long run, if they are, wanting to go to Europe. I think that's there's a dividing line. Some people think that they can maybe challenge for Europe. Other people think they will be in a relegation battle. But either way, he needs to start taking those big chances if they are to either achieve, to stay up or get Europe.
I think that's something that doesn't concern me about Leeds is they are creating a good quality of chance. I think that will keep them in the Premier League. And I'd be more on the line of them being European than relegation fodder. Because there's a lot worse teams in the Premier League that we'll move on to a little bit later. But let's take a look at the bets. Are you back in the Blues or are you back in the Whites in this game? Under 4 goals in the game and both teams to score. So a lovely sitting on the fence, but under goals and of course...
Yeah, I can see this one going either way. I can see Chelsea maybe winning 3-0. Or I can maybe see Leeds winning 2-1, something like that kind of situation. And both teams to score, I think, is a given. I can't see, even though Chelsea's defence, has improved, I can see it. Yeah.
See, I've gone for more goals in my bet. I've gone for real goals in this game. But I'm also looking at Chelsea. So if we jump onto my bet right now, we're back in Chelsea. We're backing over 4.5 goals in the game. And we're also Zuma anytime. So this... isn't a wild bet. This is a very conservative bet. So, only Sheffield United and Leicester City have conceded more goals from set pieces than Leeds United.
Right.
No players scored more goals from set pieces than Kurt Zuma in the Premier League this season. Wrapping that in with Ziyech, with Chilwell taking corners. this man scoring a goal. I think as soon as one goal goes in, I think this game's going to pop off.
This is wild. Are you telling me this is going to be a pure Barclays?
This is going to be an absolute Barclays, all the types of Barclays in this game. I think it's going to absolutely go off. And that is why I've gone for a 20-1 bet here. This is a crazy bet that I've built, so make sure you gamble responsibly if you're going to follow this one. Let's jump on to free super tips bet. I think they'll be going a little bit more conservative. Chelsea to win the game, over 2 goals, and Werner anytime. So they've taken the flames away from my bet. But Werner anytime, as we sort of mentioned, is the type of player to catch that high line out from Leeds.
I really like that. I can see his movement troubling Leeds. I think potentially if they get caught up the field as well, players don't get back in time, potentially only Phillips just left there, covering things, then yeah, absolutely I can see Werner taking chances.
On to West Brom versus Crystal Palace. This might not be the most exciting game of the weekend, but West Brom, massive result last time out against Sheffield United, 1-0 win. Conor Gallagher with the goal. But the guy that really impressed me in that game, Matheus Pereira. Yeah. He needs to really turn it on, doesn't he, for West Brom?
He's outstanding. I mean, last season in the Championship, there were some really good players. Watkins, Benrahma, of course, at Brentford. Leeds, of course, had their own, the whole team coming through. The whole team coming through. And Matheus Pereira was excellent for West Brom, and I think a key member of that squad to get them up.
In terms of the stats for last weekend, 9 chances created against Sheffield United. That's the most of any players managed in a single Premier League game this season. But the key thing is, are you going to be backing West Brom in your bet, David?
It's going to be another drab affair, I'm afraid.
See, these need to stop. Under 2 goals in the game and both teams to score, no. A defensive 2-1. Look, I don't get me wrong. I think this is a really solid bet. You're looking at West Brom's recent results. Some stats that I was going to use to back my bet. After conceding 13 goals in the first 5 games, West Brom have now conceded 5 in the last 5. So this kind of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm kind of going for a bet that mirrors what the game's going to be. Pretty drab, pretty safe. I think both teams will be feeling each other out, scared to make the first mistake.
Well, luckily I've gone absolutely wild in my bet. Like, I have gone crazy. West Brom to win the game and correct score 1-0. So if there's a goal scored in this game, just flick your TV off. Just go and do the washing up or something. Just sack it off. One goal's done. Let's take a look at 3 super tips bet. Are they back in the same low-scoring affair? They've gone Palace to win the game in under 3 goals. So there's low goals. So under 3 goals could just be a single bet by itself that worked quite well. Yeah,
exactly. It's interesting about Palace to win the match. Maybe they're thinking a bit of Eze magic. Zaha magic there just to win it. So we'll see.
Next up, we've got Sheffield United up against Leicester City. Leicester City are the team I want to talk about first. A bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team in a way, where you're looking at, they beat the likes of Man City, Arsenal, Leeds, Wolves, but then lost to Fulham. Yeah. Do you think it's a problem with their formation, their tactics? Do you think they need an extra man from that defence into midfield?
I think sometimes the tactics, I think Rodgers sometimes overthinks things. Things do, I think Leicester, you watch them a lot of the time and they look smooth, they look good, and then suddenly Rodgers will throw a spanner in the works, like maybe changing something around. And you see a lot of their fans kind of like, well, he's done that when everything's working so well. And I think we saw them against Fulham just really get picked apart, and my bet here kind of follows on from that.
Let's dive straight into the bet then. Let's get straight into it, because this is a game where I think it could be a good game or a bad game, but you've gone Sheffield United to win the game by 1 goal. So you think this is going to be the Blades getting back to what they did so well last season, just grinding out results?
I think they were buoyed by that Liverpool performance. The way that they really, really dug in, I think the confidence has come back. You can see, Wilder was a little bit angry after as well. I can imagine just a bit more bite now, and I think they've been a little bit tame, Sheffield United so far. It sometimes takes that sort of game, that sort of adversity, a bit of, sparring between Klopp and Wilder to just pick things up, and I can see them carrying on from here.
So Jurgen Klopp's going to save them from relegation because he's been winding up Chris Wilder.
Essentially, yeah.
I like that. I do like that. But let's jump on to my bet. I'm going to go with Leicester to win the game in Madison any time. So the big thing, I think there needs a change in shape. I think this 3-4, 2-1 isn't quite working. No. You look at the stats from last game, the possession is too deep. Evans, Fafana and Fuchs played over 100 passes each. Yep. Madison only completed 39. Needs to be a change in shape. Also looking at win rates this season. So they win 75% of the games in a 4-3-3 versus 46% in any other system. Mostly that back 3 shape. This comes in if we see a 4-3-3. If not, maybe Sheffield United win. Let's take a look at FST's bet to give us a bit of a mix of both. Leicester to win the game under 4 goals in the game of Vardy anytime. You can't really write Vardy off, can you?
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a decent bet again. Like you say, I think it's key, the formation. If they do set up in that 4-3-3, then I think they'll really make a game. But if Rodgers tries to overthink things, tries to play 3 at the back, I think the players are going to be frustrated by that. trying to make it work on the spot against a team like Sheffield United, who really get in your faces.
I think as well, when you balance two back threes against each other,
Yeah.
it usually makes the game really bad. Which an under bet in this game could be quite good.
Yeah.
In the sense of, your wing back's going to match up, the back three's usually going to match up with a spare man.
A lot of football in your own
drab.
half, I think.
Yes.
From both teams if they do set up like that.
Right, stop what you're doing right now. Get your phone out, set a reminder for 4:30 on Sunday, because of course, it is the North London derby. Arsenal going to Spurs. This could be massive. Spurs sit top of the Premier League, and they look good for it. You think of that 1-1 draw away at Chelsea, defensively very, very solid, Mourinho-esque. Can you see Spurs finishing end of the season, top of the league?
I think it's a big juncture in both teams this season. There's a lot of hype around Spurs right now. If they get the win here, then that'll continue. People will be really taking them seriously. And then Arsenal, you see the form that they're in and the criticism that's coming in. Arteta is very much under fire. Most difficult period, I think, of his managerial time with Arsenal. So if they lose, then the pressure is really, really on him. So this is a big, big game.
So again, you're looking at the stats. The Arsenal-Wolves game was actually the anniversary of Unai Emery's sacking. Emery left Arsenal with a 49% win rate in the league. Arteta at the moment has a 43% win rate. What does Arteta need to do to change things?
This is
It's a big question. We haven't got that long though.
Yeah. Drop Lacazette.
Lacazette.
Yeah, and play Aubameyang through the middle, centre forward.
We did see a bit of that in the last game against Wolves. They didn't quite change their method of chance creation.
Yeah.
Keep hanging balls up to Aubameyang. They keep putting high crosses into the box.
Yeah.
That's surely something they can just tweak.
They've got one thing right, putting Aubameyang there.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. They've got him there. But you can't just keep lofting balls in. Aubameyang's good in the air, don't get me wrong. He's got that about him. But play at the feet. His hold of play is excellent. Play it into feet, bring other people in from the wide areas, from the middle as well, to support him. Get bodies in that final third around the penalty area. It isn't happening enough.
It's not. And if you look at Arsenal's average positions last time against Wolves, they were devoid of anyone in that central area. It was very, very wide. There was nothing in that middle area. And we saw that in the game. That they just couldn't penetrate them through the middle. Yeah. But let's take a look at the bets now, because we could go either way here. I don't know where you're going. Let's take a look at your bet right now. You've gone Spurs, draw, double chance, and both teams to score. Yes.
Yeah, I can see. Honestly, I think you can see the form that Spurs are in right now will obviously make them favourites. So that's why I put them in there. The draw is that Arsenal might just say, "Come on, let's
turn up."
Yeah, just turn up. Let's get through this. Let's put a big performance in. I think Arteta will be looking at the players and saying, "Right, if they can't turn up for this game, then Jesus, they can't turn up for any game." So I think we could see a performance from Arsenal. So that's why I've gone there. Both teams to score. Yeah, absolutely. I can see it being a little bit open. It's classic derby game.
Yeah.
Sometimes form goes out the window. A very cliche thing to say, but it does, and I can see it getting again a bit bitty, end to end.
I do think that a big thing with Arsenal right now is motivation.
Yeah.
They look like they've gone back to that Unai Emery, we can't be bothered to play for the manager type vibe, which is a bad indictment of that squad.
Yeah.
But we've seen that Arsenal, they've turned up against Liverpool, they've turned up against Man City. They generally turn up. They beat Man United.
They love the big games.
Big team. Yeah, so
they love the big games to test themselves, and I think they'll look. And like I said, this is an important juncture. If they don't turn for this one, they're in big trouble, I think.
They are. I've gone completely the other way though. I'm backing Spurs in this game. I think their performance was fantastic against Chelsea in a defensive sense. This sort of 4-2-1-3 shape with the two DMs and Dembele playing, there's a bit of a destroyer ahead of them. Kane dropping deep, the two wide forwards high. I think that worked really, really well. In terms of counter-attacking, only Manchester United have scored more goals on the break this season than Spurs. Yeah. And also Harry Kane anytime. His record against Arsenal is sublime. 10 goals in 11 games in the Premier League. Yeah,
that's safe. He'll want to prove himself always against Arsenal. In North London derby, this is like his stage.
His game, his stage. Yeah. Let's take a look at free super tips bet and see what they've gone for. They've gone Spurs to win the game, Kane anytime, and Son anytime. Which we've seen Son be used as this weapon, against Man City. It was the right-hand side, got in behind Cancelo, worked really well. You could see him potentially playing high if Arsenal play a back three against one of those outside centre-backs, causing them problems. I do like that bet as well. It's just adding Son to the mix.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a lot of space, especially behind the full-backs. Arsenal will, again, they do love a cross right now. Yeah. So when those full-backs push on, I think that's sometimes on the break, Son can potentially go in there and exploit that.
Our penultimate game sees Liverpool play Wolverhampton Wanderers. Curtis Jones was man of the match against Ajax midweek. Do you start him?
Yeah, to start him, you continue. I think you have to reward him. If he puts in that sort of level of performance, then I think you have to continue with him. And they need a bit of stability there, I think, as well.
He's a very talented player, dynamic on the ball, hit the post as well. scored a really good improvised goal with the outside of his right foot from that deep cross from Nico Williams, another young player. Heavily criticised online, which is pretty terrible, but put in a massive performance against Ajax in the Champions League.
Yeah, exactly. And these young players, they don't kick on unless they keep getting opportunities and consistency. You can't let him have a good game and then drop him the next game, I think, or the next 5 games, and then expect him to come back in and produce another great performance. Give him more chances, let him bed in.
Absolutely. I think this Liverpool team has got space for young players to come through and really stand up. Of course, there was horrendous scenes last week as Raul Jimenez fractured his skull with that collision with David Luiz. That was awful. Of course, we're hoping that he gets back to full fitness as soon as possible and a speedy recovery. But Wolves were excellent on the counter-attack against Arsenal. Adama Traore played a key part in both of the goals with his carrying, with his little bit of trickery and movement. He's definitely going to be a danger up against his Liverpool shuffled back 4. Yeah,
he's somebody again who can exploit his pace, his physique, the way he can go at people. His dribbling ability is unbelievable, and he'll want to drive at Liverpool and try and, when Liverpool push on, because they always put numbers ahead. I know they're a little bit more defensively sound these days, of course, but Adama can still make a lot of trouble there for Liverpool.
Linking with Pedro Neto, with Daniel Podence, and of course Fabio Silva. We've not quite seen in the Premier League. Fabio Silva reminds me a little bit of Inzaghi. That's the level that I give him in terms of quality. I think he's going to be a top Premier League player. So it'd be quite nice to maybe see him emerge with this sort of new front line for Wolves.
Yeah, he's a young kid. He didn't have really much experience when you looked at it in Portugal as well. Didn't have much first team football.
It's almost like he should have stayed in Porto.
So it's going to take time for him to bed in. And God, if he gets a chance against Liverpool, then.
Let's take a look at your bet. Are you back in Liverpool or are you back in Wolverhampton Wanderers and Fabio Silva?
Yep, Liverpool to win here. I think it has to be that way. You look at their record at home, how they perform. Goals, there's always goals in this Liverpool team, and I think you pointed out Wolves on the counter-attack are very good, so I can see both teams scoring as well.
Nice bet. Conservative but nice. I've gone with Liverpool as well in my bet. Mohamed Salah anytime, and of course under 3.5 goals. So just looking at Liverpool's shots on target over the last 3 games, it's not been great. They've been averaging 2.33 shots on target in the last 3 games, which is quite low for this Liverpool team where you expect them to create loads of chances, 10, 11 shots on target in a game.
I think more teams are sitting back against them now. They're kind of like trying to soak up the pressure. I don't think Wolves will do that too much. I think they'll have a little bit of timing where they just kind of feel Liverpool out, try and frustrate them a bit. But Wolves will want to do their own thing as well. So that's why I think Liverpool will have a few more open chances here.
Definitely think that in terms of the under 3.5. I can see a 2-1. Salah in terms of goals, the best XG of any wide forward in the league, so I've thrown him in there. I also think Ajax slightly caused Liverpool problems with those sort of inverted crosses from either side. Fabinho getting caught under the ball. David Classy had some massive chances and should have scored and won them the game. But anyway, let's move on to FST's bet builder, and I'll just relax about Ajax losing and potentially getting knocked out of the Champions League. Sad times for everybody. But both teams to score, yes, on FST's bet. We've got both goals in the first half, and Jota anytime. Jota, a man in form.
Yeah, and a muted celebration apparently. So there we go. Against his old club.
That is written in the stars, isn't it? It's a classic thing on Football Manager. This just happens when you go back to your old club. But Jota, only Mohamed Salah scored more goals in all competitions than the former Wolves man. So that is a decent bet. 10-1. Great price as well. Next up, onto the South Coast for Brighton versus Southampton. 2 of the most progressive managers in the league. This should be a good game.
Very good game. Really, I think Southampton are one of the neutrals' choices to watch this season.
They are. They really are. Good football inside. Let's take a look at the bet straight away. Let's dive into it. You're backing Danny Welbeck's Brighton or Che Adams' Southampton?
Oh, yeah, I'm a big Che Adams fan. It's propaganda from me for Che Adams.
So, David, take me through your bet.
Yeah, I think, like we said, discussed Southampton playing very, very good football right now. I can see them beating most sides. They're just a very, very tricky team to play. But I've kind of been safe. Brighton can frustrate and dig in when they need to be. So that's why I've gone for the draw there as well. And Che Adams, I am an absolutely massive fan. I think last time I was on this show, I also backed Che Adams there, and I will continue to do that.
Because when he started scoring after you came on the show, so Che, of course, you'll thank him later. But I do think I like the Southampton draw. I thought they started so well against United in the first half.
Yeah.
But then they were quite poor afterwards.
Yeah.
So it could be a stage where Southampton get an early lead, Brighton maybe claw their way back into the game.
Yeah, and Brighton aren't too prolific either, so that's why I've gone for this safe one as well. So if Southampton do get a lead, I think they could protect it. If they can't, okay, Brighton might want to get one back, level it up, but I can't see Brighton winning this one.
I can also not see Brighton or Southampton winning it. I've gone with a draw. I think a draw is going to be this game. I think both teams, I think it's going to be a good game. This is the 50-1. This is the big one. So if you fancy it, this could be the one to take you Somewhere special. We're going for the draw. We're going with Danny Welbeck anytime. I thought he had a really good game against Liverpool, but it wasn't just the attacking sort of stuff that he was doing. He won the penalty, of course, that got the draw for them, but he made more tackles plus interceptions in the first half than any other player.
He's always been a workhorse ever since he came through at Man United. I think a lot of people saw him, coming through as a 9. He just wasn't that type of player at all. He works very, very hard in the channel. He's a really good component, I think, in a side, just to stick in if you want to defend from the front.
And I do think it's time for Danny to grab another goal. Going over 2.5 goals in the game. I think it'll be a high-scoring draw. And also Che Adams. Got to back Che Adams.
Love this. Got to back Che Adams.
You've got to back Che Adams in this modern day. Theo Walcott-Adams looks like a good little partnership that caused United some problems in certain aspects of the game. And I just think, look, he's a player that's really in form right now. And with Brighton, they like to play out from the back, don't they? Southampton love to press from the front. Goals.
Yep.
Let's take a look at free super tips. Last bet of today's show. They're on with a draw on both teams to score. It's a really boring 15-4.
Yeah. There's no Che Adams either.
So that is that. We have built some bets today. Thank you, David, for coming down. Where can the people find you?
I'm on Twitter at David Jacka, JACA. Come follow me if you want.
Go and follow him. And of course, if you follow any of the bets that we have built today, please gamble responsibly. And we'll see you next time.